Right now we're going to talk more about the marketing. We're going to try to get into some detail here with our marketing. And we have been direct marketing for about 16 years now. And we spent a lot of time chasing a lot of different rabbit trails. A lot of time trying to figure out what really works. And after 16 years of doing this, it's become much more clear and a lot simpler to us. And we've kind of identified some of the different moving parts and the different barriers that we're up against as farmers that are direct marketing. And I'd like to kind of boil that all down today to identifying the single biggest barrier, at least from our perspective, where we are and what we're doing with our model, the single biggest barrier that stands between our farm and our customer. And not only do I want to try to identify that and unfold that, but then talk about what we can do about it. All right? So, Seven Sons Farms. Like I said, we started this about 16 years ago. That's not when we started farming. My dad purchased the initial farm in the early 70s, was it, Dad? And he purchased it as a operating farrow to finish confinement hog operation producing pork for IBP, later Tyson. And when he purchased that original, we purchased the original 20-acre farm, correct? And when he purchased that farm, it also came with, he purchased it from an existing farmer that was operating on that farm, so it came with 1,000 acres of corn and soybean land that we could rent. So we had two different enterprises at that time, starting in the 70s, 1,000 acres of row crops and the pork production, confinement pork production enterprise. So at that time, here's a picture of us. This is all 7 of us boys, and there are 7 sons. Usually that's one of the first questions I get asked, and so we'll get that out of the way now. There are 7 sons. But at this time, and I just talked just before this here, and I mentioned at this time, we were farming 1,000 acres, pushing out thousands of hogs per year in the confinement pork production operation. Yet we were still struggling to produce an income for one family. Matter of fact, it got to the point, this was the era that a lot of us faced, especially in our part of the country, where you either needed to get big or get out. Fortunately, my parents decided to pursue more regenerative type agriculture. This would have been in the early 90s. We happened to sell out of the hog business right before the market fell out. I think it was in 95 or 96. And so when we sold out of the hog business, we took that capital and converted our cropland to perennial pastures. Everyone told us around our area we couldn't do that. We're in corn and soybean country, high rent, high value land. And then we also took what little capital we had left. We started building fencing and water line infrastructure. Then we went into debt, bought some cattle. And we spent the next, it's funny listening to Will talk earlier this morning because, business can a lot of times be a little more predictable than we think it is. A lot of times it always takes a new business 5 years to reach the point where we're actually cash flowing what we're doing. We spent at least 5 years losing money after our transition to pasture-based agriculture. And matter of fact, it took us almost 10 years to get to the point where we feel like there was some viability in what we were doing. But we have to believe it's possible. That's where it starts. Because our beliefs will affect our actions. Our actions obviously determine our results. So we start by believing it's possible and then being willing to sacrifice for that belief. All right, so here we are today. Seven Sons is on 550 acres. So half the acreage we were on at this time, but today the farm supports 10 full-time people on 550 acres. What really gave us a lot of hope as we were in that rough transition period was when we started to develop a customer base. Because when we developed that customer base, we could then set our own price since we actually owned a customer. It's a crazy business idea to set your own price. As farmers, we think we shouldn't, we don't have that privilege. We do. So as we began to set our own price, we were becoming price makers, not just price takers, and that really changed the game for us, and has allowed us to grow a business what we have today. So there's the family. Well, that's actually an outdated photo. There's several more grandkids now. But anyways, before we dive into the nitty-gritty of marketing today, I want to ask some questions. This Charles Steinmetz, he's a pretty interesting guy if you study up on him, but he once said, no man really becomes a fool until he stops asking questions. I think there's some really pointed questions in agriculture that it could pay us to ask right now. An exercise we kind of like to think about on our farm, and we're taught this in holistic management. We're taught to think about take inventory and evaluate what are our most valuable resources on our farm. And farms have a lot of different resources, and it helps divide these resources into different categories. Okay, your farm and my farm, we can divide our resources into three main categories. And again, holistic management teaches us about this. We all have environmental resources: land, water, sunlight, livestock. And I think it's important to think about what are the bottlenecks, or what can we leverage in these when you think about these resources. On our farm, on your farm, if you go home, a lot of you could probably go home and purchase some more livestock. You could come up with the resources to purchase more livestock. But how many of you could go home today or after this conference and go buy another farm, buy some more acres? Okay, so as we think about these questions, we kind of think about what are our bottlenecks, or what should we think about leveraging? And same with water and sunlight. Okay, we just can't recreate that, so that should drive our management practices. That's why at Seven Sons we've transitioned to pasture-based agriculture, thinking about how we can utilize sunlight and water better. And then we think about how we can utilize our land better with stacked model enterprises. A few of you were sitting in here when we were talking about the economics of our stacked model enterprises. We started off with beef production, and as we developed the customer base, we had a very valuable resource of the customer base. Those same customers obviously would buy other products. Okay, we're familiar with this model, and so we can produce those other products in the same acres. We run pasture-raised hogs, and we have laying hens, and so it's all about thinking about our resources. Another resource is our financial resources. We all have financial resources. We like to focus on how little. We all would like more financial resources. And we have found that what financial resources we end up with are really a result of how we steward and manage the whole, our entire resource base. I don't think it really matters how little financial resources you have. We came from not only struggling financially, but then made a transition and nearly went completely broke. But it took us to get to that point to understand how we needed to get a little smarter about how to utilize our resources. The third type of resource is a resource that I feel like as farms we completely neglect to utilize, yet it's a very important aspect and part of our farms that is available to us, and that is social resources. So what am I talking about here? I'm not talking about subsidies or any kind of government resources. What I'm talking about is people on the land. Every one of these pictures represents the people that make our farm tick each and every day. We refer to this as our intellectual polyculture on our farm. As I was, how many of you were at Will Harris's? What did you find most unique or different there? They all had a passion. Yeah, they all had a passion. But it was neat looking at the farm. There's a lot of different animals, a lot of different enterprises, but we've all seen those types of animals on farms. But what stood out to me is the people, the number of people that were on that farm. Most of us here understand the value that diversity brings to our land, whether it's diversity in the soil, diversity of livestock and pasture, But we forget about the diversity that people can bring and the value that a diverse social resource can bring to our farms. Thinking about just as I was at Will's, it just really hit home to me that the intellectual density on a per acre basis that farm has and the value that translates to. This is something we need to think about. In agriculture, in the last 50, 60 years, all we've done is reduced mind density per acre, intellectual density per acre, and diversity per acre. And I think our profits per acre have reduced right along with that. It's this capacity of diversity on our farm of people that then allow us to even be more creative and more diverse in the form of utilizing the social resource aspect of our farm in a deeper, more meaningful level and connecting more people to the land. Okay, this is a social resource. And each one of you are a social resource to your farm. Matter of fact, you're one of your farm's most valuable resources. Remove Will Harris from White Oak Pastures. Remove his vision from that farm, you would see a very different farm. The same is true for your farm. The potential that you bring to your farm and the more people you can bring onto your farm, how we can really express a lot of diverse things. So these people, all right, many of these are expert producers, okay? Some of these are expert marketers. Our farm has a CFO. We have an expert accountant on staff. All these people is what helps us bring and create value from each acre of our farm. And these people that work for us help us develop our market enterprise. This is another social resource that we have in our farm. Over 5,000 individual families and customers that have a direct relationship to our farm and our land base. Now, many of you are probably thinking, but I don't have a customer base of 4,000 people or whatever. But I would argue if you are producing food products in our agriculture industry and then food products that go into our food industry, you are producing calories that go to an end consumer, okay? Ultimately, that is your customer. And the value you receive for your hard work and effort is really determined by where you choose to place yourself in the value chain. It's a choice. The industry would have us believe it's not our choice. It is our choice. Someone is going to leverage our labor and our capital resources. It might as well be us. Okay, we covered this in detail just an hour ago. But when we stack all the enterprises, production enterprises on every acre of our farm, we can realize a net profit for our efforts and time we put in, a net profit of $4,000 per acre. Reason I put this up here, let's compare these economics, okay, these same cost models of production to a net profit basis if we were selling, instead of selling direct to the end consumer, what if we were selling these same products on the commodity market? What would our economics look like then? These same products, same production models, same cost models, we would be losing at 7 Sons if we were marketing to the auction barn, to the grain elevator, we would be losing $1,500 per acre. That's the difference of leveraging your social resources. That's the difference of being a price maker or a price taker. That's the difference of where we're choosing to position ourselves in the value chain. Now you may say, well, if I was getting farm gate commodity prices for what I produce, I would produce things differently. But at 7 Sons, our production decisions are land management decisions. Okay? We wouldn't want to change anything about what we're doing. So in effect, you could argue that, if we were cutting corners, management corners, this cost of $1,500 per acre would be charged to the balance sheet of the health of the soil or the public health. Okay, I don't think there's really any room to cut any corners. Just to back that up, Alan Nation, I don't know if Alan's in the room, but he's here today, but he said, I remember reading in his book called Farm Fresh years ago, the highest return for pure knowledge is, has been, and always will be marketing. Think about it. We can spend 24 months producing a finished grass-fed beef animal. Who in here produces grass-fed beef? Is anyone here doing it in less than 20 months?
Oh, no.
Less than 20? Okay, all right, how long have you been doing it? No, but is it? We can, it can take us almost 2 years to produce this product. Yet that last little bit of time from the time that animal is produced and leaves your farm, the majority of the value is captured at that point. From the time that product leaves your farm and goes to the customer. All right? The industry would rather leverage all of your hard work, labor, and capital resources to produce that value themselves. Okay. So where do we start? I mean, I think we're all on the same page. We get it, right? Well, I think it would benefit us to first ask what our customers truly want. Do you realize if you ask that question, that single question, you will have separated yourself from 99% of people, farmers in agriculture? We don't ask that question in agriculture. The average farmer doesn't ask that question. That's the polar opposite way that most industries and businesses function. Most industries and businesses have a laser focus on what their customers want. In your your bags there with all your different brochures and things that came with the Grassfed Exchange packet, you'll have a feedback form in there. Okay, everybody, usually you want the feedback from your customers. This is something that, as an industry, we don't even think about. So if we can ask what, that's a big step in the right direction. The second question I think we should ask is why. What's driving consumers? What's driving consumer choice right now? Is Lauren in here? Where's Lauren? Lauren's one of our scholars, but he had the microphone on the bus on the way to Will's, and he really hit it on the head. At the end of the day, it's about creating trust with consumers. I've talked to different producer groups and even talking to commodity-based farmers, and I pose this question as well. What's driving the consumer? And I tell you something that we can all agree on, no matter what your background in agriculture is and what your philosophies are, we can all agree that more and more consumers have lost and are losing faith in our food system. All there is to it. So we need to think about what the customer wants, what's driving them, why they want it, and now we just have to think about how. Okay, so in marketing, I think we really can overcomplicate things. This group here today, we are producing what the customer wants. We've already asked that question. And fortunately for us, the consumer wants to get as close as they can to their food source. That's us. So we have what the customer wants. The customer would like to buy it from us. I would say 75% of our job in marketing is already done for us. Okay? We can spend a lot of time in marketing. We think, what do we need to do? We need to get organic certification. We need to get all these different third-party certifications. What should my protocol be? We spend all this time thinking about things that really aren't driving what we're doing. We need to think about just what are the barriers. Okay, we have what the customer wants. They'd like to buy it from us. We just have to think about removing the barriers. So at Seven Sons, it's taken us a long time to get to that point. We just need to identify the barriers. And we have identified at Seven Sons that convenience over and over seems to be the number one barrier that separates our farm from our customers. There's a lot of people interested in grass-fed beef, as you know. I like to use the example of the inconvenience people have to go through, consumers have to go through just to buy freezer beef. All right, think about the process. They have to find you, and that can be pretty inconvenient. As farmers, we're not very visible. Once they find you, they usually have to, submit some kind of order form. All right, they call you, say, I'd like some freezer beef, and you say, great, I've got 20 animals I'm finishing. They'll be available this fall, perhaps 6 months from now. So you take a pre-order, you take a deposit, and then 6 months later you tell them, hey, we've got your beef scheduled to go into the processor. You need to call the processor and you need to give them your cutting instructions. That can be pretty overwhelming for most customers. Okay? Then you start explaining to them that this is sold by the hanging weight. Like, whoa, what's that? You explain, well, the carcass is hanging on the rail, and they cut it up, and they throw away some stuff, and your yield, we're not sure how much you're going to get at the end of the day, because it's all based on a per animal basis, and every yield is a little different, and your price per pound is constant, but we don't know what the total cost will be, because each animal weighs a little different, and then, by the way, you'll have to pay our processor as well. All these different hoops, and then once it's finally ready, the processor calls and says, hey, you need to come pick up your beef today because we're out of freezer space. That model and that example I just gave you is just one transaction. What if you wanted to stack enterprises and have multiple transactions with your customer throughout the year? It's a freezer beef model, and most of us as farmers, our marketing models are based around our convenience. We got to turn that around. Think about what's convenient for the customer, and we have to do that in a way that's practical for the customer, yes, and practical for us as well. So we've kind of divided convenience in a three-legged stool, all right? You heard Will talk about the three-legged stool. All right, all three legs need to be the same length. We need to have all three legs in place of the stool topples. All right, we talked about this last year. We're going to get into each leg of the stool in a little more detail. So if you're taking notes, you can just draw a picture of a stool, and we'll keep it real basic, and we'll just cover these basic concepts of how at Seven Sons we've attempted to make our product and our farm as convenient as possible, yet practical and scalable as well for our farm. The first leg on this stool is the idea of visibility. Usually, this is the big one. Usually when I'm talking to farms about direct marketing, the biggest complaint or the struggle is nobody knows I exist. I'm going to all this work to produce a high-quality product, yet nobody can find me. And it makes sense because as farms, our farms aren't necessarily right in the middle of a city, right? We're located in rural areas away from the population, so we're not very visible. And so, we recognize this as a barrier early on, and so, like most farms, we turned to some of the most traditional methods of establishing visibility by going to farmers markets and going to restaurants and retail stores trying to promote our product that way. But we found that a lot of us are doing that, and it can get a little bit discouraging because you go to the farmers market, many times you're the third or fourth vendor there selling the same product, and it seems a little saturated. Well, I can tell you the market's not saturated. It's just what we're trying to do. We're all trying to do the same thing at the same place, and that ends up creating a little bit of perceived saturation for us. So what we have done is we focused on internet marketing, and Alan Nation wrote a really good article a number of years ago, and his research was showing him that 80% of consumers that are looking for natural and organic foods first turn to the internet first to find what they're looking for, 80% of them. I doubt 80% of us farmers are putting our efforts in internet marketing. Okay, just the very nature of farmers and the consumers we're serving, there's quite a gap there. Okay, how many of you send out a daily tweet while you're doing chores? No, nobody? How many of you write a weekly blog post? We don't. That's not really not in our nature, but as consumers, that's where they are. Okay, they're on social media, they're on the internet, and so there's really a gap of opportunity. So at Seven Sons, we've really focused in that gap, in that area, and establishing visibility using the internet. So, how do we go about doing this? Well, first of all, just to kind of illustrate, and this is updated from last year, just to illustrate the amount of visibility that our website had. We launched the website probably 12 years ago, and it's taken us a lot of time and effort, but we've built a presence and some visibility on a local basis. We're seeing over 142,000 visitors every year that visit our site, and a large majority of those visitors are people that are within our market region. Okay, we're not talking people in California and New York City. These are people that we have the ability to market to and get product to. 142,000 visitors per year. And that's just from 12 months ago, that is up 42%. So that tells you how much interest is building. Okay? And of course, it's the snowball effect. The more visitors you're getting, the more exposure you're getting, word of mouth, and those kinds of things. But think about the value in that. Every visitor that comes to our website is spending right around an average of 4 minutes and 36 seconds, each visitor. All right? Some are spending 40 minutes. Some are spending less than 4 seconds, unfortunately. But if you average that out, 142,000 visitors on a yearly basis, times that 4 minutes per visitor, that basically means our website is interacting with potential customers for over 10,000 customer hours per year. What does that look like in value? How much would you have to pay someone to stand at a farmer's market? 10,000 hours a year. It'd take a staff of people, and I'll actually show you what it would take. For us to pay someone to get 10,000 hours of customer interaction, it'd take 5 full-time employees. If we were paying them $15 an hour, that'd be a $150,000 expense. And you know, that's the model that some of us are trying to actually scale right now. But we find using the internet we can do it much more efficiently. So once we get a website established, and how many of you have websites for your marketing business? Okay, a few of you, that's great. Usually when I'm talking to farms, the first question they ask, well, I have a website, but I feel like I want to get more visitors. I feel like it's not really very leveraged. And one of the first things someone will ask me is, how do I get #1 on Google for the term grass-fed beef? And there's a lot of farms and companies competing for that term. All right, asking this question is probably like asking, how do I get a front page article in Time magazine done on my farm? Getting #1 on Google is a result of doing a lot of different things right. So we have to think about using some other methods to build our internet credibility and our internet visibility. So how do we do that? Well, at Seven Sons, we started off by doing as much link building as we could. All right, many of you are, I'm sure, are familiar with what link building is. It's getting as many links out on other websites that point back to our website. And what's cool is that there's a lot of energy and buzz right now in the local food pasture-raised movement. So there's a lot of very valuable directories that are popping up all over. Eat Wild is a directory that's been around forever. And if you have a website, I'm sure you probably have a listing on eatwild.com. But if you're selling dairy products, you can qualify for a listing on realmilk.com. There's Local Harvest. There's actually a lot of them, and a lot of states have their own local directories. And what's great about link building is you go to the work once of getting a link on another website, you're always getting the residual effect of your effort for getting that link out there. For example, for an entire year, I made it my goal every week to find a new website to link our website to. Right? So that was the basis and the foundation for establishing traffic and a following on our website. And of course, there's conventional means of link building as well through social media. And this is what really starts to establish credibility on Google. All right? Google is going to look at how popular your website is on the internet based on how many visitors you're getting, based on how many websites link to you, and the quality of those websites that are linking to you. For example, you could put you could go to a lot of work and get 100 listings on a lot of small websites that point to yours. But if you got one listing on, say, the New York Times blog, that would probably wipe out the work all you did on those small websites. It's not only the number of links, but the quality of those links as well. Gabe, I think your website has a listing on the Huffington Post or something like that. that really helps out the credibility of your website, and Google's going to look at that. It does. Have you looked at your Google Analytics? I need to send you a copy of that. But anyways, so that's the idea of link building. Think about link building as your initial way to get traffic to your website, but also to build credibility, and that's what kind of starts that snowball effect, is link building. We know this, but I just like to emphasize exactly what we're doing. So the next thing is that we think about is, all right, so we go to the work of building a website, we go to the work of trying to get people to our website, then what? What happens once they're there? It's pretty important to think about this process. This is the main, if you go to our website, sevensons.net, this is what you see. Before you scroll or click anywhere else, you see this page. We hold ourselves to a 5-second rule, okay? We want any visitor, once they click on our website, within 5 seconds, we want them to identify exactly who we are and what we're doing and what they can get from our website. 5 seconds. Okay, in the real world, we're told that we all need to have a 15-second or so elevator speech, that we can interact with people. In the virtual world, you don't have the luxury of 15 seconds. You've got about 5 seconds. If you can get a visitor to stay on your website for 5 seconds or more, your chances of getting them to spend 5 minutes or 50 minutes dramatically goes up. The attention spans of people on the internet, we're all like this, we just don't realize it. We're extremely short attention spans. So that means if you've got a website that loads slow, that counts into your 5 seconds. If you have a website that doesn't load well on mobile devices, a lot of times that just inspires the person to click the back button. And that's called a bounce. Google calls that a website visitor bounce. And Google keeps track of your bounce rate, and they figure that if your bounce rate is high, the quality of your site must not be very well, and that reduces your credibility in Google search engines. And keep in mind, probably close to 98% of people on the internet go to Google first. So that's why I'm talking a lot about Google. I think we know that. So a really valuable tool that we use, because it's really hard for us to look at our websites or our marketing material objectively. We all have come at it with a bias because we understand our business. We know what we're trying to portray. But we use a service called Usability Hub. And Usability Hub it's basically a surveying service. Okay, and so they will go out and give people a survey. So we used Usability Hub to submit a screenshot of the initial website, the initial page that our visitors see when they hit our website. Usability Hub goes out and they will survey people. And what they'll do is they'll put our website screen up in front of that person for 5 seconds, and they'll ask that person to describe what they saw. What is this website about? I just recently did a usability test on our most updated website, and here's what the first 5 respondents said. They were asked, what is this website about? The first person said it's a website about local pasture-raised foods. You can buy products there. They have 5 seconds. They're just random people. The second person didn't know how to spell, but he still got it, right? And you can pay for specific demographic studies. This was just a general study, so people from all over the world had the chance to look at our website and describe what it is, which I kind of liked it that way because you get, it's a pretty true test. I thought just for the fun of it, I would find another website that was selling grass-fed beef. I'm not going to tell you whose website I found. I'd never heard of them, but you can do a usability test on anything, even other people's materials. So I did a test on another website that looked pretty vague and hard to understand what they were doing. And look at this. The first person that had 5 seconds to look at the screen passed on even responding. They couldn't understand in 5 seconds what was going on. The rest of them didn't do much better on surveying that. So think about that. Try to hold yourself, if you're going to go to the work of internet marketing, building a website, hold yourself to that 5-second test. You don't have to use Usability Hub. You could go, anywhere to some friends that aren't familiar with what you're doing and give them that test. You can put anything on Usability Hub, a website or a brochure, a business card. It's a very handy tool. The next thing we think about, okay, once you've been able to get your visitor to be there for 5 seconds, the first thing that they're most likely going to do is start scrolling down the page, okay? So what's the first thing that we want to see, want the visitor to see? We think it's important at Seven Sons to really begin to connect with the consumer and explain why we do what we do, and try to identify our belief systems. It's kind of a truth in life that people really don't care what you know until they know that you care, right? People truly want to buy products and do business with people that believe what they believe, right? And we want to identify with those types of customers. So that's the first thing we go with, is what we believe. And we have just a short little video that explains what we're doing and why we do what we do. In that video, all day long, whether I'm here, probably someone right now is on the internet watching this video right now as I'm talking to you. We utilize video marketing, we utilize blog posts, and we've got a lot of content on our website for people to learn about us. But that's the first thing we lead with, is what we believe. Second thing that we do, okay, if customers scroll down a little farther, they get an explanation of how it works. All right, and we hold ourselves to a 3-step process. All right, that means no matter what product we're selling, okay, and this applies more to just the internet. If you're creating a brochure or a marketing plan, you want to be able to tell somebody no matter what product they're buying from you, when they're buying it, how they can buy it in 3 simple, uniform steps. It's pretty tough to do if you think about it. All right, a lot of times we're selling beef on a different harvest schedule than what we're selling our hogs, and chicken production is 6 months out of the year. We have separate order forms for all that. If you think about it, it a lot of times can be pretty hard, and it took us a while to get to the point where we had a business model that was actually easy for a customer to understand. All right, so I'd encourage, this is more than just marketing content on your website. It's a business model that equates to convenience to your customer. It can't be too complicated, all right? All right, our customers are used to just going to the grocery store, right? The easier we can explain what's going on. Okay, so once our customer they understand what we're doing, they get to our website, they understand why we do what we do, they understand how it works. A very important step after this, okay, is to call them to action. And we emphasize calling a visitor to one single call to action. Again, we're talking about internet traffic and visitors, short attention spans. One of the mistakes that we made early on, and I see a lot of people making with their marketing, is calling people to multiple forms of action. So, add something to your cart, buy now, or sign up on the mailing list, like us on Facebook. Those are all good things to do, but we need to think about what the number one thing we want them to do. And for our website, what we try to do is get people to create an account on our website, all right? We have an e-commerce site where people can place orders, so we want them to create an account, because we can accomplish several things with that single step. First of all, what we're doing by having that customer create an account is they're submitting their email address, they're creating an account. That means they're one step closer to actually buying from us. But what they're also doing when they're creating an account on our website is they're selecting the pickup location that's nearest to them. All right, we have over 50 different pickup locations where our customers can pick up their product, and I'll talk in more detail about those in just a minute. But notice the information we're getting, okay? They're submitting their email address and their pickup location, and so at this point, we are now able to send out very targeted, convenient email notifications to the customer from our website. Okay, in our website, we're able to go on with a single click of a button and issue an email out to every customer that is near a location that we'll be delivering to that week. Okay, so the email is very simple. It looks just like this. It says hello, and it fills in their name, okay? And it just says, this is a friendly reminder to let you know that you have 2 days left to place an order for your delivery at your delivery location this week. All right, so that That's our call to action, and that's what we're doing as a result, is targeted email marketing. And this email that is sent out, because it's targeted, it ends up being our most effective form of email marketing. For example, we track this really close for a 6-month period. In a period of 6 months, 4,500 customers received this email notification. Now, if you look at our Google Analytics as a whole, we receive, on an average, on a yearly basis, about a 4% conversion rate. So out of those 140-some thousand visitors, 4% of them convert into sales. With this email drives traffic to the website. It drove 4,500 people to our website. And instead of a 4% conversion, this email had a 14% conversion in that 7-month, I think it was 6 or 7-month study we did. And we continue to send that email out every day. But 14%, it drove over 648 transactions for a total of 144,000 in sales. All we were doing was clicking a button, sending out a targeted email for that. Okay, so you think about the process of this flow. This flow is very important from the moment the customer or the visitor hits the website, what we're presenting to them and why, and then what we're doing. Okay? And this is all simple, but it's just putting the puzzle pieces together to make this all effective. Now, as we're getting traffic coming to the website day after day, essentially what we're doing is building a following of people. All right? We're not, at Seven Sons, we're not as interested in creating customers as we are building a following, because it starts with the following, and that following then learns about your farm. They're getting your emails. They see you on social media, and eventually the idea is they become customers. And this is a blog post that really hits home the effectiveness of content marketing. I talked about this last year at the Grassfed Exchange. And we're trying to send out marketing is we're not asking customers to buy anything. We're providing content of value. And content marketing is one of the newest forms of marketing. It's a very genuine form of marketing, and it's one of the most effective forms of marketing when leveraged correctly. And because our types of customers are very interested in learning about what we're doing and getting a connection with their farmer, content marketing is a super way to leverage our marketing efforts. So what I did here, I created a video blog post. I didn't spend a whole lot of time with it. And I then went to our newsletter manager, and I put a preview of that blog post in the newsletter and sent it out to all of our subscribers. Okay? Here's what the email looked like. Very simple. Just a couple of sentences about the video, a title, and send it out. And I think we have around 6,000 or 7,000 newsletter subscribers. So here's what happened. We also posted this on Facebook as well. And we've got about 6,000 Facebook followers as well. So once you develop that following, we leverage it with content marketing. So we tracked this post very closely. We kind of did a little study on it here. This blog post, okay, one blog post, one day, here's the results. The email went out to 1,400 newsletter subscribers, okay? It went out to over 6,000 Facebook subscribers as well. Within 24 hours, 700 people had viewed the video, all right? Not all of them customers, but followers of us. This sent over 800 visitors to our website. Now notice I didn't send people to YouTube to watch the YouTube video. I embedded the YouTube video on our blog that's on our website. So the content drove people to the website. And so within 24 hours, 308 items were sold. Okay, so we tracked. All right, with Google, you can track each click on a newsletter campaign or any campaign, and you can track the history of that click and what it leads to. Ultimately, it led to 308 items sold, over $4,200 in sales. One blog post, one day, and we never asked the customer to buy anything. We simply engaged. Okay, content marketing is simply engaging with followers and customers. So this is a great way to leverage the traffic and the following that we build. A lot of you, so how many direct market here? Okay, and do you all usually have an email list? A few of you do. Okay, and this is how we leverage an email list. A lot of us a lot of us get overwhelmed about the idea of a newsletter. But I say, if you don't have time for a newsletter right now, that's fine. But go ahead and start collecting the email addresses, all right? At some point when you have 1,000 newsletter subscribers, it will probably make sense and pay you well for your time. I probably spent 30 minutes on that blog post. 30 minutes for $4,200 in sales is a pretty good return for my time. All right, so that's visibility. That's how we develop visibility for our farm using the internet. Now let's, 10 minutes left. Holy moly. Okay, we need to get going. All right, so the next step on this stool that we think about is accessibility, all right? All right, just because we're visible doesn't mean we're accessible. A lot of us are located away from our customers. That's fine. We can use the internet and new technology to develop visibility for our farm. That's great. But if you're still 200 miles from your customer, you're still not very accessible. All right, I like to think about the comparison of a vending machine. When you think and observe and think about it, a vending machine is always located in a very visible and accessible location, thus making them convenient. All right? So what we did, as a matter of fact, if you're in New York City, they have cupcake ATMs. This is a raw milk vending machine in Poland that a friend sent me. If you live in Los Angeles, you can get Calvin Klein underwear from a vending machine as well. Think about this. We took this idea of a vending machine, all right, the convenience aspect of it, and we thought, what if we put an on-farm honor system store on our farm? At this time we had about 10, 15 customers that were stopping by. This was 8, 9 years ago. They were stopping by the front door of our house to buy eggs. So we decided, to make things a little more convenient, we'd put a little on-farm store here. And we put a cooler with eggs in it and a couple of freezers. And within a couple of months, we didn't realize how much we lacked the point of accessibility on our farm. Within a couple of months, we had those 10, 15 customers turned into 10, 30, 40, 50 customers. And within a few years, this little garden shack was running over $40,000 in sales every year on a self-serve basis. And we just recently upgraded to or not recently, but in 2011, we upgraded the store. And ultimately, this is driving right around 10 customers a day that visit our farm. They all spend around $70 per sale. And so, you do the math there, it's our most profitable form of marketing. But it's really, we're using the internet to develop the visibility. The store simply offers a point of accessibility for our operation. And because we were using the internet, early on we were getting customers driving from Chicago and Indianapolis to visit the farm and to load up their coolers at this little store here. Those original customers asked us to start buying clubs, okay? So our customers expressed their feedback, we listened, very important, we listened, and we decided that, we should probably start establishing some remote pickup locations. So here's what it looks like today. If you draw a 250-mile radius around our farm, we can leverage visibility using the internet. That's fine. Okay, but what we've done to create the accessibility is we've put together drop-off locations, and most of those original customers who were making the drive to come to our farm offered to find a church parking lot or their home driveway to offer a pickup location. So we have about 50 pickup locations now. Customers are simply placing orders on our website for the location they'd like to pick up, and we have a predefined schedule, tells them when and where to be to pick up their orders. And we simply, everything goes in the truck, loaded up on a Saturday morning. We make deliveries to each location every 6 weeks on a Saturday morning. We send 1 or 2 trucks out every Saturday morning based on the routes that are scheduled for that day. Everything that goes on the truck is paid for, all right? Nothing is speculated. When we were doing farmers markets, we loaded up the truck at the beginning of the day, and nothing was paid for, and we had no idea what we were going to sell. Everything was speculated. And on a good day at a farmer's market, we were grossing about $400, $500 in sales, right? This was 10 years ago, all right? Farmers markets are different. I know farms are leveraging better now. But here in this model, we found out very quickly, instead of $500 or $600 in a market for a farmer's market, the truck usually goes out with anywhere between $10,000 and $20,000 in product that's paid for, and all we're stopping at, and one day we can stop at about 3 or 5 locations, between 3 and 5. This is an example of a buying club in Columbus, Ohio. And so within one day, we can move a lot of product, and it's a great way to leverage our time and yet offer something much more convenient to our customers. All right, this chart shows the red map markers show our existing buying clubs. The blue markers show everybody who has applied to start a new buying club within the last 12 months on our farm. Over 170 applicants to start new buying clubs. I put this up here to illustrate the point in the need of accessibility. There's 170 people that would like a more convenient, closer point of accessibility with our farm. All right, we're adding about 5 to 10 new buying clubs every year. We could add a lot more, but we don't necessarily have the product available. A lot of other things need to build with this. So that's accessibility. That's how we're handling it on our farm. The next thing we need to think about is availability. All right, to complete this convenience tool, just because a customer found us, they have a point of accessibility. What if they stop out and the vending machine is empty? All right, and that's with what we're doing as farmers that are ecologically minded. We're concerned about production cycles, and we want to produce beef when it's the optimum time to produce beef. That's what we do on our farm. A lot of our beef is cattle we finish in the fall. Okay, but we have customers that want to buy it year-round. That's a big inconvenience if we can't offer product year-round, right? Most of our business has grown exponentially by simply widening the point of availability of our products. Okay, just simply having beef available in the fall will limit the amount we're going to sell. So this is quite a conundrum for us for many years. I mentioned last year I was randomly having a conversation years ago with Kit Farrow. I was explaining our conundrum with this availability issue because we were trying to spread out our calving season. We were trying to do a fall and spring calving season and have animals available year-round. And that was costing us a lot of money, so we decided to invest in freezers. Because Kit said, why don't you just buy some freezers? And I thought, well, that'd be too expensive. That'd cost us too much. And just for the fun of it, we ended up buying freezers. And just for the fun of it, I put up here how much it actually cost us to produce and finish beef out of season. Okay, so imagine we're feeding high-quality baleage to our animals for a month. Okay, this is what our cost would be on 4 beef animals if we're finishing during the winter. I would have a cost if I'm figuring, if I'm figuring my opportunity cost, even if I'm making my own hay or baleage, I would have a cost of $300 per month to inventory or finish 4 steers out on the pasture, and that's based on where we are in our economics. I can house 4 beef on 1 pallet, finished product in the freezer for $30 a month, and that's including depreciation on our freezers. Okay, so we look at our freezers as much of a production tool as they are a marketing tool, and what we're doing now is widening that point of availability from something very narrow to when our beef is finished to 12 months out of the year. Now, to make that happen, we do have to make sure we're processing our product with good packaging and good integrity. And we have a relationship with a great processor that makes this very easy for us, and we're able to store product for longer periods of time in our freezers. Now, something we do, and you have to think about if we're storing product, lots of product for longer periods of time, we have to think about how we're inventorying and putting up that inventory so it's it's in a very marketable and organized form. And so that's where we've switched to selling most of our products instead of selling by the hanging weight, where we're having to match the customer at the same time that we're taking our beef into the processor. We've decided to basically sell all prepackaged bundles. All right, so we've harvested as many as 40 animals in one day at one time, and our processor, we'll just tell our processor, bundle them all. All right, so what they'll do is we have, I've got a box I was going to show you of what an eighth of a beef looks like. But we've developed a box size that works very well that fits an eighth of a beef. And so now when a customer comes to us, whether they want to buy an eighth or a half or a whole beef, they can come to us that very day and we can get it to them that very day. And they know exactly what they're going to get. They know what their cost is going to be. And it's really revolutionized the way we've done business to put up product that way and in the freezer that way. So are we out of time yet or what? Where are we at? We're close? Okay. You're not going to leave. Okay. When they start leaving, we'll stop. But that completes the convenience tool and how we think about a model that's practical for us, practical for the customers, to basically remove that big inconvenience barrier that stands between our customers and our farm. Truly, I mean, you have what the customer wants. They want to buy it from you. We just have to make it convenient. We've actually had the opportunity to work with several different farms implementing this same model. This is a farm just one state south of us, or south of where we are today in Georgia. Full Circle Farms, they operate about 20 to 20, I think it's closer to 25 buying clubs in the state of Florida. When we started working with them, I think they had closer to 15 buying clubs. But this is just an example of how this model can be duplicated anywhere. This buying club convenience model using the internet. Here's a farm that we started working with earlier this year in New York. They brand new farm, just starting to market and establish buying clubs in New York City. Same model is working very well for them. This is Barton Ranch. I don't know if some of you know Kelly Heaton out in Utah, 250,000 acres I think they have out there, but they're just starting their direct marketing enterprise, marketing into Las Vegas here. And then we've been working with the Browns, as Gabe just said, helping them with starting some new buying clubs in and around Bismarck. So I love this quote by Henry Ford. It's been my observation that most people get ahead during the time that others are wasting or others waste. We see the more growth and the more success that we've had on our farm, the more opportunities that we see. This is a pretty valuable time, I think, right now. There's a lot of consumer awareness happening right now. And in our minds, this time is a gift. As I mentioned earlier, we've spent the last 50, 60 years reducing the amount of people on the land. I feel like, pasture-based agriculture the segment of pasture-based agriculture can bring more people back to the land than any other segment in agriculture. If we think about our resources and tap in to that resource we all have, that social resource aspect, connecting people to the land. Such a vivid example of seeing that at Will Harris's. All right.